It's the Believe in Texans podcast brought to you by FanDuel. I'm here with Cecil Shorts and Cecil, CJ Gardner-Johnson. This is the biggest news since you and I last talked. CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to be healthy. The secondary in full will also be facing a completely healthy, or at least for now, a completely healthy Matt Stafford. What was your level of nervousness, I suppose, if CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't ready to go?
You know what? I think the initial scare of the injury was like, oh, daggone it. Like, I thought he was out for the season. And as time went on, they're like, oh, it's not an ACL, it's something else. And I don't know if we ever got the full story of the injury.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently, if he's going to be ready week one, I think it's a different dynamic to that secondary.
Yeah.
He brings a certain attitude, a certain toughness, a certain grit. And that's just who he is, right? And it kind of is contagious to everybody else that's around him. So I'm interested to see how much he plays. Interested to see how they kind of get him involved, because you got to be careful. Knee, haven't really been practicing, probably not in game shape, then playing in preseason. So I'm assuming that he'll be on like a pitch count. But just to have him back in the room on the field, it's a really, really big deal.
That's the only thing that makes me nervous a little bit is that he's so emotional and he is so eager to come up and hit. And he's talked about how he's had to mature out of always being full board CJ Gardner-Johnson, that after missing all the combined practices, really, like, he gets passionate about the combined practices. He really thinks that's where his leadership shines, is showing guys like, no, this is the way you compete. I just don't want him to get ejected in the first game because he comes up and They've got a team full of habitual line steppers now on the defensive side of the ball. And they've got a reputation for it. I think after the Chiefs game last year, even though those two unsportsmanlike conducts or unnecessary roughnesses were egregiously wrong, I still feel like the Texans get stamped with that. Oh yeah, that's the Trevor Lawrence injuring defense. Or oh yeah, that's the defense that got 2 flags during the Chiefs game.
I tell you what, I like it though.
Yeah,
I like it. I love it, because now you know that the Texans not playing around. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to fly to the ball. And I don't want to get too caught up in the Trevor Lawrence thing, but when the quarterback slides late, that's your fault.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's your fault. This is the offensive guy talking. When you want to take your time and slide, that's your fault. Like, you got to protect yourself. You want to be fully protected, slide early, give yourself up. Don't wait till the last minute, or just try to run somebody over and get down or dive forward. But when you slide late, that's your fault.
We had Case Keenum on like 2 weeks after that had happened, and it was the first time he'd done media all year long. And it was funny because the news came down of Al-Shaair's suspension like 3 minutes before Case Keenum came on the show. And we were like, hey man, love the insurance commercials. Here's this hot button topic for you to talk about. And Case said the same thing. He said when he talks to high school kids, if you're going to slide feet first, your head is the last thing up. And you got to take it on yourself. But that's all. That's neither here nor there. Matt Stafford is healthy. And ever since it was announced that he's definitely going to play, the line went up. It went up as high as making the Rams a 3.5-point favorite in some places. FanDuel has the Texans as 3-point underdogs right now. So there actually is some value there compared to some other places. But I'm kind of surprised by that, just because I always assumed Matt Stafford was going to play. It's just a matter of, all right, how long does his herniated disc stay unherniated, or whatever state he's in right now?
Yeah, I don't care what they say. I don't think he's 100%. When you got to get an epidural in your back, it's just weird. And when you're 37, 38 years old, however old he is, that stuff wears on you. Like, it's only going to be a certain amount of time until Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Al-Shaair, whoever gets a hold of him, and they hit him in the back. Not on necessarily purpose trying to hurt him, but just playing football and hit him in a certain area. He's going to get up slow. He's going to get up hurting, and that's only going to benefit the Texans. But it's just a sticky situation. I'm not even sure, as I'm Sean McVay, if I even want to put him in that situation this early, because they always start slow anyways. From the history of what the Rams do, right? They always start slow.
Right. And that's another, I guess, maybe underrated or, maybe under-discussed element of this is you always hesitate whether you're just reading too much into a small sample size or something. But they've had slow starts the last couple of years, and they don't play their starters during the preseason hardly at all. And I think like most of the big name guys They definitely don't. Jackson, their left tackle, is injured. He's been dealing with blood clots too. So that's another element of, okay, you got a quarterback that's got herniated discs. Jackson hasn't played, and I don't know if he's questionable officially yet. We'll get the injury report tomorrow, but that's a big question. The Texans' unofficial depth charts came out yesterday, and these are unofficial. So take it with a grain of salt, but this is the PR staff, not the actual coaches putting this out there. But a lot of people were surprised that Jaden Higgins was listed as a starter with Xavier Hutchinson as a backup. That was one surprise. The other surprise, or at least things that people were disgruntled by, was that Woody Marks was listed as the fourth running back, where I feel like a lot of people want him at least in practice to be the second string running back and get the most touches. What did you feel about Xavier Hutchinson versus Higgins?
Well, when you draft a guy in the second round, as high as you did, you expect him to be the number 2 guy. And I think, honestly, he's the better pass catcher. He's the better receiver as a whole. He has the higher ceiling. He has the higher potential. So there's no surprise to me there at all. I think when you drafted him, he was kind of slated to be the number 2 guy. That's why you brought him in there. And then from everything we saw from OTAs and minicamp to training camp, he's lived up to that potential thus far. So I'm not surprised by that at all. I don't think that's a big shocker. I think that's expected. And I think Xavier had a good camp. I think Xavier has improved every single year. But when you draft a guy second round, and when you go out there and you bring in and you see the talent he has, his ceiling is extremely high. Not that Xavier is not, but it's just a higher ceiling and more capabilities, in my opinion, from a total receiver standpoint than Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt about it, because I was getting excited about Xavier, and I mean, I think he has improved, but in terms of the ceiling, the explosiveness, everything that can happen, you live with whatever rookie lumps there are, where guys aren't necessarily quite completely integrated into the offense or whatever, just because they got to play. Like, you got to, if Higgins did everything you wanted him to during camp, so you got to get him back out there. You got to get him out on the field. Woody Marks is the one that I'm trying to figure out, if I were trying to figure out, whether to use him in fantasy or not, it would be dicey for obviously a rookie in his first game. Do you?
It's a dynasty, though. It's a dynasty roster. So,
well, no, I think it's a good move. And I was, maybe in not this game in particular, but over the course of the first 3 games, especially as long as Joe Mixon is out. Let's say hypothetically Joe Mixon is only out for the first 4 games, and then you reset. We'll see about that. But I think in terms of total touches, he might end up being close to Nick Chubb or a Gumbawale if you include the passing game. And I think that if I looked at what would I like as a 1-2 punch right now, I think Dameon Pierce is going to get his touches, but I think it's probably just like it is with the Lions, where you got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. You got a 3-down back type, and then you got a faster receiving type back. I like that with Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. And I think because he can pass protect, that they can trust him out there. The big question is, all right, they're going to need him to also help out. Any running back in the backfield is going to have to help out versus the defensive ends, particularly Jared Verse. And you got Ariante Aristide out there as a rookie offensive tackle. So I wondered, how careful they're going to be about just throwing a rookie out there when they're going up against a defensive front that's got 2 really good defensive ends. And that, you looked good in pass protection as a rookie, but we got to really have you just sink that shoulder into the rib pads of these guys when you're chip blocking.
The best thing you could do for anybody is get playing time.
Yeah.
So for me, even though I think there might be a little bit of, I got a rookie left tackle and a rookie running back at the same time, I'm trying to help out these experienced pass rushers, but at the same time, I don't look at going back to the depth chart. I don't look at him being 4th. I don't look at that as anything. I think depending on where they draft the guy, depending on who is above him, the organization has respect for certain guys, right? So on paper, it'll look a certain way, but come game time, I expect Woody to play a good amount. And I think he'll get more offensive touches than Dare. I think he'll get more of it. He might get the 2nd or 3rd most offensive touches of the entire team, because I think he's so versatile. And you can see him being used, especially as the season goes on. We will see him being used in a slot, in my opinion. We'll see him being used not only on 3rd down, but he can tote the rock in between the tackles in the early down situation, depending on how Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce are doing. I think there's a lot of potential with him. And then you mentioned the pass blocking. If this dude can be consistent with his pass blocking, he got a chance not to leave the field that often, right?
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. So I think it's an ongoing competition as the year goes, and they're going to play the best guys, especially with Joe Mixon being out, with Dameon Pierce not kind of being the same guy since a couple years ago, and Nick Chubb being older. I think they're very open-minded to see who can be the impact running back and kind of ride that wave.
I've been spending 5 weeks convincing myself of how good all of these rookies and everybody else is, and now I'm like the rubber is meeting the road in week one. There's parts of me where I've been talking a big game about Ariante Ursery, and I'm like, all right, Ariante, don't let me down. You got your chance here, man. This is a big one. Ariante, and I think we've talked about this before, but like he uses his hands really well. There are times where he kind of lets guys get into his body, and I think that I'm just so glad that he's had Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter to go against all training camp. Because if you had him out there during a bunch of schlubs and then went against this defensive line, he would take some lumps, like he just would. Now I'm allowing myself to think, man, it's a rookie. Yeah, it's his first time in the NFL. And yes, it's versus, especially Jared Verse, his power is just so impressive that I think he's going to be further ahead of the curve than he would have been before. That day in, day out work against two guys that like actually genuinely work their butts off in practice. That's it's not like you can go through a whole game and not see as many genuine one-on-one pass rushes as you do in one practice versus Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter,
No, for sure. And I think, be honest, he's going to take his lumps. There'll be a few times where Verse and whoever else on the D-line will get over on him. But I think when you look at how he approaches the game, how he approaches practice, and when you watch after practice, when it's him and Daniil Hunter one-on-one talking, him and Will Anderson one-on-one talking, he loves the game. And he's going to figure out his technique and everything, how to play a little bit lower, in my opinion, still a little bit high. But I think he'll be good, man. I truly, truly do. He's going to compete. He's going to get better. And what's going to be important, too, is CJ movement in the pocket. Like, as he gets comfortable with his left tackles and right tackles, he understands, okay, this guy's rushing the field. I need to make sure I'm moving up, sliding to the left or sliding to the right to help out his tackles as well.
Yeah, the pocket movement is so underrated. I think CJ he did some really nice things just in the preseason. We had limited viewing of it, but last year there was something that they had worked on, and I felt like he was making progress. But then there was just sometimes by the fourth quarter of a game, it was ideally I would just take one step to the right, but it seems like every time I just take a step to the right, I got hit in the ribs. So it was impossible to really develop it. I'm just hoping he develops it this year. It's also hard to find, just like it's hard to find good football players, it's hard to find great candidates to hire. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You get too many resumes, not enough candidates with the right skills or experience. But now with ZipRecruiter, ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. They use their smart technology to identify top talent for your roles quickly. Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you qualified people for it. ZipRecruiter lets you connect with top candidates ASAP, and you can use ZipRecruiter's pre-written invite to apply message to personally reach out to your favorite candidates and encourage them to apply sooner. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. It's ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Phil Simms was on the Believe in Giants podcast, and Phil was not a fan of last year's scheme. Carl Banks, former Giants great, asked Phil Simms about C.J. Stroud. Does he need to have a bounce back year this year?
Got to rebound too, right? Well, you got to rebound, but O-line was average. Pass protection scheme was awful. I mean, everybody.
Every receiver got hurt.
Yeah, the receivers too. But everybody knew about the formations and everything, what they were, what to do against their offensive line and the system. And that's why it just fell apart. Man, Houston, their defense is so fast. It's scary. Secondary is really good. And we'll see how the offensive line, they got to fit, quarterbacks that don't get time to throw are not going to play great.
Yeah, I mean that last part's pretty basic, obviously. I thought it was interesting that he started off saying that the offensive line was average, and I kind of raised my eyebrows. But then I could tell that he was going to go all in on really Bobby Slowick, I think, in the pass protection, because that was the one thing last year that was really apparent. And it was worse in the first half of the season. They cleaned it up a little bit, but there were just so many times where defensive coordinators almost felt like they could dial up the pass protection they wanted to see and then just send a blitzer from the weak side. And that's where I think CJ and his ability to control it this year and recognize, oh, okay, they heard that we're sliding to the right, and now I can tell that this linebacker is blitzing or whatever. Then I can adjust and tweak the pass protection a little bit. I think it's again, I'm trying not to be irrationally optimistic about it until we see it, but I just think there's a few little simple tweaks that don't have to be big and dramatic. That's just going to make it operate a lot more smoothly.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This is something I'm watching from the very first snap. Is how well are they going to be? How good are they going to be in pass protection? Because week 1 last year, I'll speak for myself. There was tons of pressure on CJ, and I kind of overlooked it. Like, I'm like, oh, it's going to be all right. Their D-line is really good and all this and all that. But as the year went on, we saw it from week 1, and I ignored it, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse as the year went. And I'm like, I can't ignore that again. So from week 1 on Sunday afternoon, I'm watching it from jump. How does that offensive line do versus defensive line? How does CJ do when it comes to him calling the protections? Can he see the blitzes? Can he see the schemes coming? Can he see whatever the case may be? Can he get the ball out quicker? Because watching that week 1 last year versus the Colts, he was getting hit hard. Even that big third down, the sideline to end the game, and Nico Collins, he got blew up. Great ball, but pressure was coming. So I'm interested to see the progress from last year to this year, and then his mindset and his progression and his maturity at the line of scrimmage, being able to call the different slide protections from a passing standpoint.
Yeah, that first Colts game, I was so excited about the offensive line and the run blocking, and they did some things really well. They had to clean some other things up. And then over the course of the next few weeks, it all fell apart. But it stunk because remember the Colts were getting run on like 200 yards a game for the first few games. Their run defense was just a mess. So you also realized, okay, the level of difficulty wasn't necessarily that high. They were doing it against that Colts defense from last year. And I was glad to see Micah Parsons just stay in the NFC too.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yes. Stay away.
Stay far away. I'll tell you what, man, the Cowboys, this has been a weird week for me, really a weird month, because I've actually almost started to feel bad for Cowboys fans. And usually, I just can consider them the vermin of the earth, but it's gotten so bad. Right now, the Cowboys are facing their divisional rival, the Eagles, on Thursday Night Football to open up the season. And FanDuel has the Cowboys as 8.5-point underdogs to the Eagles. And you just look at this team where even with Micah Parsons, they're going to be underdogs. The defense was just a vast disappointment. They've got Lou Anarumo they brought in that maybe will improve things. Not Anarumo, excuse me. But I don't know where they go from here. You could make an argument for trading Micah Parsons if it was just in a vacuum and that, all right, this is an isolated instance or something. But everything about the whole process just felt like every time Jerry Jones gets in these situations, he's more concerned about making a circus out of it than doing what's right by the football team.
Seth, they will never be good again or Super Bowl ready again until he stops, until he steps down. That's the only way.
Backs off.
That's the only way they'll be. And I'm happy. I am so happy because I can't stand Cowboy fans. I don't like the Cowboys, never liked them. And I hope they struggle from here for the rest of their life.
You know what? I'm spoiled.
Keep living in the 90s.
Well, you live in a workplace, or you work in a workplace where there's like the smattering of Cowboys fans. So you got to deal with these people. Where I'm lucky. I don't have to deal with these people. Where you have Cowboys fans amongst you and everything, and you just gotta, but even that, because it used to be annoying forever because you get in an argument with the Cowboys fans and they start bringing up old stuff from the 1990s. And now they realize it's 30 years later. It's been 30 years. My children and my grandchildren don't even understand what I'm talking about. Yeah.
In the 90s. You can bring up old stuff all you want. They're trash right now. They're not good right now.
Yes, Cecil. Yes. This is the sports hatred we need. We need it. Don't just be careful when you're online because people are out there. They're looking for you, man.
They're lurking. They are lurking.
Delete me. Delete me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online. At a time when surveillance, data breaches, and scurrilous fan bases are common enough to make everyone vulnerable, data brokers can make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. That can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. The New York Times Wirecutter has named Delete Me as their top pick for data removal services. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting PRO to 64000. The only way to get 20% off is to text PRO to 64000. That's PRO to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. The one, I'm trying to find reasons to feel disrespected because that's the chip I like to put on my shoulder right now. There's a poll in The Athletic that had anonymous coaches and executives rank defensive play callers. And I was waiting to see, all right, okay, DeMeco's going to be in the top 5 for this one. DeMeco's not in the top 5. He ended like 8th or 9th. He got 1 vote out of 30-some votes. But this is the one thing that I noticed about it where I got less offended. The top 5 play callers, the defensive play callers, they were all guys in a 3-4. So it was Vic Fangio at the top. I think Brian Flores was there, Mike McDonald, a couple other guys that run a 3-4. And I was curious about that from your perspective as an offensive player. Because I played in a 3-4, I played in a 4-3, I played in a 3-4. The fun thing about a 3-4, and I played for Vic Fangio, was it did always kind of feel like you're a mad scientist, like there's, because you can bring guys from all over the place. Like from a pass rushing, from a receiver's perspective, it probably doesn't matter as much, but just from an offense game planning against it, did you remember a big difference from week to week? Because the Rams, by the way, play a 3-4.
Yes, because it's a little more, you're used to the 4-down front or even front. That's what majority of people do. So when you go against a 3-4, and you have these athletic ends or outside linebackers, as they call them, as you a slot receiver or you're preparing for that as a game plan, it's different. And you have to be able to adjust to it. Like you said, different exotic blitzes can happen. They can drop back in coverage. It's just so many things you have to think about. And the athlete is different on the outside linebacker in particular. With a guy with his hand in the dirt, most likely 90%, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, he's not going to drop back in coverage.
Yeah.
Right?
Or when they do it's awkward. Yeah.
When they do, it's awkward and not kind of worried about it. But when the 3-4, those outside linebackers are pretty good athletes. They can do a multitude of things, and it's frustrating or just confusing, or it's just different than a regular 4-down defense. So there is some things to it. But from your perspective, what's the advantages of a 3-4, and then would you rather be in a 3-4 or 4-3?
If I could go back in time and just be maybe like 20 pounds lighter and really, really fast, the 4-3 like DeMeco's, I think as a defensive lineman, it's fun. He for the most part just lets those guys get up and go. But because I wasn't a great foot speed guy, I wasn't fast. I liked it. It suited me better to be in a 3-4 because I could use my strength and I had a wrestling background. So that helps a lot because you're more in the hand fighting and the using your leverage and everything. So I like that part of it. But like just for pure production, it's just the 4-3. You get upfield, you penetrate. Like it's the way the Texans play on defense. It's just more psychotic. You have this in a 3-4. Usually there's some more aggressive schemes. Like Wade Phillips tended to be more aggressive in it. But you're kind of absorbing more and you're reading and reacting, where in the classic 4-3, you're just getting off and going. I think with DeMeco, because I'm kind of tongue in cheek about feeling disrespected about it. I do think that like he'll tell you himself that he just wants to keep it as simple as possible without being too simple so guys can just play fast. So the actual, like if anything, I think DeMeco consciously doesn't want to try to get too clever with the play calls, because then all of a sudden guys are thinking and they're not necessarily playing as aggressively, or they make mistakes. So it's all about, okay, how do we disguise without making it too complex, the illusion of complexity. And that's where I think they'll be able to be a little bit more advanced with that this year, just because they have more experience in the secondary than they had before. But yeah, selfishly, I would if I had to do it over, I'd be the exact same type of athlete as JJ Watt, and I'd be a wide 9 defensive end. I just didn't quite work out. It wasn't in the cards. Yeah,
that's a great person to be like.
Yeah, that's all I'd do. Except more durable though too. I'd be more durable. I'm gonna tell JJ that the next time I see him. It's like you're like the perfect athlete, except for just
less injuries.
You know what? JJ is fun to talk to about that part because it's always. I think he's gonna struggle with it to the day he dies. The fact that he worked out so psychotically that you always wonder though. All right, that's what fueled him being a 3-time defensive MVP. But at the same time, like, all right, could he have done it a little bit differently and taken it a little bit more easy on his body and gotten the same results? I don't know.
Always that's a good question.
Yeah. You can't think about it, JJ. Don't think about it. Cecil, thanks a lot. We'll catch up tomorrow, right?
Yep.
All right, tomorrow afternoon. Look for it. Also, you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go check us out on Apple and Spotify. And if you're on Apple and Spotify, you can also check us out on YouTube. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the Believe in Texans podcast.